Hello, hello. Come to do some work on the collaboration kit with Artie May's Andrea. And I kind of got a bit carried away yesterday and started my cover, but I did stop at the back cover. This is my back cover. It's not completely finished, but I'm going to do the front cover today, and I'm also going to make one from scratch using something slightly different. Now this I'm using, I think I had maybe 6 of these. There was a front and a back cover, and then there were a few dividers, and they are made of like a chipboard. Now I'm not using these 2, but I'm using 2 other ones, two with tabs. So I'm hoping to have lots of bits hanging out. So let me just move my camera a little bit. It seems to be a little bit off. There we go. Get my mouse out of the way if I can. So yeah, the back I kind of sat and did that last night, and this is going to be the front. I'm using scrapbook paper to cover this, although on the other one I've not quite decided. It's going to be another kind of a different option. So what I did was measure the board and then cut my scrapbook paper to size. I think what I'm probably going to do is just show you the alternative, because I'm going to make it the same way as this, or obviously not everyone are going to have these, are they? So I'm going to do that. I think it's probably best. So what I've got here is, these are just various offcuts of bookboard. This is a slightly thicker one, and this is a slightly thinner one. I think I'm actually going to use the thinner one to do this, because it doesn't need to be, it doesn't need to be really thick and sturdy. We're going to glue it. We're going to have pages in it. I think it's acceptable for a cover. So I'm going to get rid of the thicker ones. Now, I love this colouring, but I'm not sure if it's going to be big enough. So I'm going to possibly switch them out for these larger silver ones, but I only have 2 of these. So I'm going to do probably one smaller journal and one thicker journal. All going to have similar things in. I've got some nice, oh, sorry about the printer, some rose gold ones too, which are a possibility. So I'm going to keep those out because I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to make this the same size as the other journal, I think, because it suits the page size. So I'm just going to grab my board, my ruler, and this is the thinner board, so I'm not going to cut this with a knife. I'm going to cut it on my paper cutter. So we have 20 centimetres by 14.5. I've got a huge amount of stuff by my feet ready to do this, and I always have trouble with my keyboard. It always seems to be in the way. Okay, so 20 by 14.5. Let me just make sure it's going to reach 20 actually. Yep. It's got a straight edge. So 20 might be. I'm going to actually use this. This is the one thing I dislike about this board. Excuse me a minute. Is this line. So I'm going to, this is my little trick. I'm going to just pop my ruler in there and push this against it. So I know both my boards are going to be the same size. They may not be exactly 14.5 because of that. You can't see. Can't see. You have no idea. No idea at all what you're actually cutting. It's got a bit of a dodgy edge on it, so let's use this edge. And it's just my way of making sure they're going to be the same size. Okay, so I'll get that out of the way for a moment. So I've now got my 2 pieces of board. These are going to be my covers. Please don't ask me what thickness these are. I'm not sure. I think it is I have no idea. It's the thinner board. It's not very thick. It's probably back of a paper pad thick is all this is. Okay, so I've got my two boards and they are perfectly the same size. So I'm going to use this as a guide to make my holes, but you could always use a standard hole punch to get them in the centre. As you can see, you know, these holes are bang on, and they're probably, well, I know they are exactly the same distance as a hole punch. So you could mark your centre and use your hole punch. I'm just using this for ease because it's here. So got my holes, got my crocodile. If you're using a single piece, you could probably use a hand punch. You probably don't need to use a crocodile. I'm going to just do both of these at once, which is why I'm using this one. It's a bit more heavy duty. Now, you're probably going to say, which is what exactly I'm going to say, the reason I'm showing you this is because I'm going to show you how I cover these, and the holes are already in here. So if you're going to cut your cardstock, this is a way of doing that if you've already got holes in your board. Now, I've got a few pieces of scrapbook paper here. I want something that's fairly neutral, so I'm going to go for that on the inside. And these are the scrapbook papers I've had at my desk for a little while now. Let me think. I've got this piece here. Which side do I want to use? I don't know. I actually quite like those two together. I think I'm going to use this piece. Okay, so back up with my paper trimmer. So I'm going to go 20 and then cut two pieces. Where's my ruler? Two pieces the same for the front and back covers. It wasn't even the same paper. I actually had two pieces together. So the back I was looking at was actually not the same. Right, let's just take that out. I'm surprised I didn't actually cut them both as well. This Tim Holtz is a lot thinner than some of the other paper pads. The paper is not as thick, which is good in some ways and not good in others, but for this it's absolutely fine because we're actually going to glue this to our board. Okay, let's take my ruler out there. That's that done. Now, the reason I do this the way I do, where did I put the board? Here it is. Okay, so these are now going to fit perfectly on here. So if I open these up, so this is my front, that's my back. I'm going to have front and back like so. Right, now okay, I'm going to mix it up a bit. I'm going to have this as my front and this as my back, and then these are going to be my inside covers. Okay, so let's start. I'm only going to show you one actually because the process is going to be exactly the same. So I'm going to put the back cover aside. Okay. Now I'm using Fabri-Tac. If you want to use a wet glue onto something like this, you need to probably give it a varnish first, or just a spray matte varnish or something like that, just so it doesn't warp when you put your glue on. But I'm using Fabri-Tac, and Fabri-Tac is absolutely fine straight onto this board. Now it's cut to perfect size, so I'm not worried about these grey edges. I will ink them fairly heavily And you will find that this absorbs the glue really quickly, this book board. So I'm going to work reasonably fast. Good coat. Paying attention to the edges and the corners. Whoops. Just gone right through that. I always stand it up and then give that a really good glue on my bone folder. Now, if you wanted stitching, you could sew this before you glue it down, but what I find is when you've got stitching and you're trying to stick it to this smaller cover, you actually get a little ridge where the stitching is, and I'm actually going to be stitching what I put on top of the cover, so I'm not worried about having the cover itself sewn. Right, okay, so that's the front. Now, before, I'll get my glue eraser out for that shortly. Before I do the other side, now this is the one thing you don't want to forget really, and I'm going to punch these holes. I've got a little bit of, there we go. I'm going to punch these holes again. I'm using my other crocodile for this, but I'm using the holes as a guide to just punch those out of that cardstock. This is the one thing that annoys me about this crocodile. I always get my paper stuck in there. Okay, and the same again this side. There we go. So we've now got our holes in exactly the same place. And now I'm going to do the same with the back. So I'm just going to speed this up for you and glue this on. Just to quickly say, you could also glue this rather than this if you preferred. It's entirely up to you. Okay, so that's our first cover done. Many moons ago, somewhere on my channel, there is a video on, I've made these kind of covers, but I've covered with fabric rather than cardstock. Now, if I can find it, I will link that for you. It was a series I did covering these. Oh, what did I do it on? I can't actually remember. It was a very long time ago, and Wendy's Journal Adventures also has a fantastic series on making binder journals too, so it might be worth having a little check out of Wendy's channel. I know I did a long time ago when I brought out Vivid Nature. When I brought out Vivid Nature, I did some ring bound journals, and I'm not sure if I did tutorials for those or not. I certainly did flip throughs for them. Just going over the edge. Like I said, this book board doesn't, it doesn't bother me having the book board edge show. It's going to be, fairly small and insignificant, really. Okay, so that's part one done. Now I've got, these are the book corners I have ready for the front. I think I might use these gold ones. These were from Etsy. Couldn't tell you, I'm afraid, where on Etsy, but if you search book corners on Etsy, you will find these. They're quite simple, but they've got a little pattern on, so they're quite pretty. Now I'm going to need 4 for the front, 4 for the back. I'm just going to have a little think. Because this is the front, I am going to be covering quite a large portion of the front up. And I'll definitely be putting some kind of pocket on the back. We're just doing the basics today. Now, I am absolutely pants with these book corners, I'll be honest with you. The reason I'm using these is because they're thin. and this is a much thinner book board, so they do fit on this particular board much better. Now I have my little makeup sponge at the ready, and I'll show you why shortly. Now what I'm going to do is, this is the kind of thing that I'm going to mess up because I'm doing it on film. I'm going to put a tiny amount of glue along the corner, just enough to kind of help hold this in place. So I'm going to slide my book corner on. Okay. I'm going to fold over my makeup sponge and I'm going to squeeze, and I'm kind of hoping for, yeah, you do get a little dent in these book corners. I've seen people do it and they're perfect, and mine never are, but you know. And there we go, that's our first book corner on there. It's quite sturdy. So I'm going to do the same with the other corners. There we go, got the book corners on. These ones are actually a little bit neater in some respects than these, because these are obviously designed to then have a backing paper over them, where I've used them on top. These are the Tim Holtz book corners. They're a little bit more expensive actually, but these are perfect for this thinner board. The thicker book corners actually don't work as well. I find you don't have to use a makeup sponge, you can use anything, a piece of cloth or something. It's just to try and protect them a little bit. You're still going to get your little dents in them here and there, but they do seem to be a little bit better. These ones are thin enough for you to try and push together with your fingers. You don't necessarily need to use a tool like this. Okay, now I'm going on to how I'm going to decorate this. Now let me just go back. This is the back cover for my main journal, and what I'm going to do is the fold out that I made that could easily go onto a page. I'm going to put that on the back cover of this particular journal. So I want something to go on the inside and of the back and the front cover for this one, but what I need to do first of all is make up my second cover. So we're not actually going to decorate this right now. I'm going to make this cover up, the back cover, and I will be back. Okay, I'm pretty sure you probably all noticed that I put this on back to front. So this is now my front cover. That's the inside, not the other side of the paper pad. So that's a good start, but things happen for a reason. So I'm sure this cover is going to be perfect. Now, I've put the back and the front on, I've put the corners on, I've just got a couple of eyelets to go in here. On the book board, the heavy duty chipboard, obviously I don't need to put in these eyelets, but I am doing it on here. Now if I was using the thicker board, I probably wouldn't use these, simply because I don't think they would fold over properly on the other side, because it is twice the thickness. This is 1,000 milligrams, micrograms. Oh, what's it called? Anyway, this is 1,000. The other one is 2,000. So this is half the width, and this is fine to use eyelets in. So I now have a back and a front cover. Now I am very probably going to use this colour on this binder, and I'm going to have to use the other one, probably the thicker one, because I've got a feeling it's going to get a bit too chunky to use these thinner rings. But the journal is going to go together something like this, okay, and I think it's going to look fabulous. So that's just a demonstration. Obviously you probably knew what it was going to look like anyway, but what I want to do is the back cover, I kind of want to do a little bit of collage-y work on here, just like I did on the back cover of the other one. Now I'm just going to pull out a couple of things from my scrap box. I'm not exactly sure what not exactly sure what it is, but I've got a piece. Let's see what else there is. Something with an image on of some kind, if there is anything. No. What I'm going to do is, what is this? Oh, it's some kind of French English dictionary. Right, change of plan. This is a page, and it is actually suitable because it's a herb themed book. So I'm going to tear, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm going to possibly use this. Yeah, I like that, but I do want something with text on it. So I'm just having another look through the scrap box, see if I can find something wordy. Right, got some text here from a French botanical. So I'm gonna just tear a bit of that. Not quite sure which way round I'm going to have it. Something like that. And that's quite a nice little quote. There's something a bit bigger. Oh, I think that one. We'll use that quote, but probably somewhere else. Right, so I'm going to ink and I'm going to glue these in place, and I'll be right back. I'm just going to show you how I'm going to put this in place and get it in the right place without kind of just guessing when I put it down. I think I'm going to have them something like that. So I'm just going to move it out of the way, and I'm going to put a little pencil line there and there just to give me those corners. Break my leg. Okay, now this is a really flimsy piece of paper, so I am going to use my Fabri-Tac for this. I will see you in a moment. Okay, so that is my back cover. I'm also going to kind of create something a bit more in depth for the front cover. So I'm going to leave it there. That's our basic front cover and back cover done for our journal. I am going to make, for the next video, I've made 2 already, but I'm going to make these file folders with the pockets to go into our binders. Okay, I will see you very soon. Bye.